Would you dare stay here overnight? The Devil's Tramping Ground of Chatham County. If you love forests, mountains, and untouched wilderness, you might want to stop listening now. Because once you hear this story, the woods may never feel the same again. Deep in Chatham County, North Carolina, hidden among ancient trees and rolling fog, there is a place locals avoid even mentioning until daylight. For more than 300 years, nothing has grown there. No grass, no weeds, no roots, just bare, lifeless soil surrounded by a forest bursting with life. They call it the Devil's Tramping Ground. A perfect circle, roughly 40 feet across, sitting unnaturally still in the middle of the woods. Animals refuse to cross it. Birds never land there. Early Native American legends claimed it was a place where angry spirits danced through the night, their relentless footsteps crushing the earth until nothing could survive. When European settlers arrived, the story changed. But the fear remained. They believed the devil himself walked that circle every night, pacing as he plotted humanity's downfall. People say that if you leave anything inside the circle, tools, bags, even heavy equipment, it will be pushed outside by morning, as if the ground itself rejects intruders. Campers whisper about strange lights drifting between trees, about shadows that move without bodies, about footsteps circling their tents, and the sound of knocking in the dark when no one is there. Scientists have tested the soil. They found nothing toxic, nothing conclusive, no explanation for why life refuses to take hold. Some believe it isn't cursed soil at all. They believe it's a boundary, a threshold, a place where something still walks and does not want to be disturbed. And yet, curiosity has always been stronger than fear. One of those curious souls was a young man named Evan. The night that changed everything. Evan was 22, an ecology student who trusted data, measurements, and logic. Ghost stories didn't scare him. Legends were just cultural echoes, interesting but meaningless. When he heard about a circle of land where nothing could grow, he didn't think evil. He thought anomaly. So one weekend, Evan went alone. He brought a tent, a flashlight, a compass, a video camera, and a small notebook to document everything. Against every warning, he pitched his tent directly in the center of the circle. At sunset, everything felt normal. Birds chirped, wind whispered through the leaves. But as the last light slipped behind the trees, the forest changed. The wind stopped. The insects fell silent. Even the leaves seemed frozen in place, as if the air itself had thickened. The quiet wasn't peaceful, it was suffocating, pressing in on Evan from every direction like the woods were holding their breath. Then the compass began to spin, not a slow drift, not magnetic interference. It spun wildly, the needle blurring into a perfect circle. "That doesn't make sense," Evan whispered. That's when the ground behind him sank slightly, not collapsing, stepping. Evan turned around. No one was there, but pressed into the soil was a deep imprint, shaped like a hoof. Then, another. Footsteps, slow, heavy, methodical. They moved in a perfect circle around the tent. Evan's chest tightened as he switched on his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and was swallowed by it, as if the forest itself drank the light. The footsteps stopped directly behind him. He turned. Nothing stood there. But the darkness at the edge of the circle bulged outward, stretching unnaturally as though something tall and thin was standing just beyond the reach of the light. And then he saw it. A figure shaped from shadow itself, too tall, too twisted, its form warped like a reflection in broken glass. It had no face, yet Evan knew with horrifying certainty that it was staring directly at him. The flashlight died. In the pitch-black silence, Evan felt breath against his neck. Cold, erratic, impossibly close. The smell of damp earth and rot filled his lungs. He bolted, but the ground turned soft beneath his feet, dragging him down like wet clay. The thing moved closer. 2 sunken eyes opened in the darkness. Endless black pits that squeezed Evan's chest as if invisible hands were crushing his heart. He screamed. And then everything went dark. What followed him home. Evan woke up at dawn, lying in wet grass outside the circle, more than 30 feet from where he had pitched his tent. The tent had gone. His equipment lay scattered, broken, as if thrown by something incredibly strong. But the worst part was the ground around him. A ring of deep footprints surrounded his body, as if something had walked around him all night, never stopping. Evan ran. He didn't look back. He left the forest that morning and swore never to return. But the devil's tramping ground wasn't finished with him. 3 nights later, Evan woke to a sound in his kitchen. A soft scrape, something sliding off a table. The house was silent, too silent. Then he heard it. Footsteps, slow, even, circling the living room below, his heart pounding, and Evan stepped toward his bedroom door. Light from the hallway spilled through the crack, and there it was, a tall, thin shadow standing perfectly still outside his door. It didn't knock, it didn't move, it simply waited. That was when Evan understood the truth the legends never warned about. Some places don't trap evil inside them, some places mark you. And once you've been noticed, the walking never truly stops. The circle never breaks. Continuation. Evan stood frozen behind his bedroom door, his hand hovering inches from the knob. The shadow outside didn't move. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time felt warped, stretched thin like the air in that forest. His heartbeat was the only sound he could hear, pounding so loudly he was certain it could hear it too. Finally, the footsteps resumed. Not walking away, circling. Slow, deliberate steps moved down the hallway, then back again, tracing an invisible ring around Evan's room. Just like the circle in Chatham County. The realization hit him with nauseating clarity. It wasn't wandering, it was tramping. When the sun rose, the shadow was gone. The house looked normal. Too normal. Evan told himself it had been a nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination. That was what science said to do, explain the unexplainable until fear lost its shape. But the signs kept appearing. Every morning, objects in his apartment had shifted. Chairs turned slightly, books slid from shelves. His shoes never stayed where he left them, always nudged outward, away from his bed as if pushed by unseen hands. Plants he owned began to die, not slowly, overnight. The soil dried into gray dust no matter how much he watered it. Eventually, even mold refused to grow in the pots. Evan stared at them one night and realized with a cold shiver that the dead patches formed a rough circle around his bed. That was when the dreams began. He would dream of walking endlessly, his feet moving on their own, tracing a perfect ring beneath a black sky. Each time he felt something just behind him, never touching, never speaking, only watching, waiting for him to tire. Evan stopped sleeping. Desperate, he returned to his notes, his footage from that night. Most of the video was static, corrupted beyond recognition. But at exactly 3:17 a.m., the audio changed. There were footsteps, not his, measured, heavy, endless. And beneath them, barely audible, was something worse. A low, rasping sound like breathing through dry leaves. Evan paused the video. In the reflection of the camera lens, just for a single frame, stood a tall, distorted silhouette behind him. He never remembered turning the camera around. The last entry. A week later, Evan wrote one final entry in his notebook. It doesn't chase, It doesn't attack. It walks. That's what it does. That's what it needs. The circle isn't a prison, it's a path. And once you step onto it, something else steps onto you. That night, Evan left his apartment and drove until the roads turned to dirt and the trees closed in. No one knows exactly why he went back. Guilt? Logic? Or maybe the pull of something that had never really let him leave. Park rangers found his car near the edge of the forest 2 days later. The driver's door was open, the engine cold. In the clearing, the Devil's Tramping Ground was unchanged, bare, silent, untouched by life. Except for one thing, the circle was wider by just a few feet, and around its edge were fresh footprints. 2 sets, one pair barefoot and one far deeper than the other, perfectly overlapping, as if someone had finally learned how to walk the path correctly. Locals still avoid that part of Chatham County. Scientists still argue. Tourists still come, standing at the edge of the circle, laughing nervously, daring one another to step inside. But sometimes, just before dawn, hikers report seeing a lone figure walking the perimeter of the clearing. Slow, tireless. And just behind him, always keeping pace, is a taller shadow, moving in perfect rhythm. Because the Devil's Tramping Ground was never about where the devil walked. It was about what learns to walk like him. And once it teaches you the path, you never truly stop. And if you're still listening, if you're still here with me right now, take a moment and look around your room. Notice where you're standing. Notice what's behind you. Because stories like this don't end when the telling stops. They end when someone decides to step closer or walk away. If you've ever felt watched that should have been safe, if you believe some grounds remember who walks on them, leave a comment and tell me where you would never spend the night. And if you want to hear more stories like this, real places, real legends, and the thin lines people were never meant to cross, make sure you subscribe, because some paths don't close on their own, and the circle is always waiting.